Hey Internet, this is Panda Sky, and today we are going to be playing DCS. I'm starting a new series called, Panda Flies, and we're just going to be flying different aircraft. Today we're going to start off simple, learning the basics of flight with the Yak-52. Each time I'm just going to go here and do the cold start, and just have a fun flight. We're going to start with the Yak-52 startup procedure. So, we're in the cockpit. We've got all these switches. On the side here. We leave the carburetor and radiator alone for now. We want to move up the engine RPM, the throttle a little bit. I'm going to do all these switches too. And then one very important one is this. This is required for getting the engine started. So just pull that out. Next we have to prime it by turning it to the left and pumping it, I think, up to 7 times. See a little truck driving by. Next we flip on the magneto to both, and that we should be ready for an engine start. Oop, I did forget one step. We have to move the fuel forward. We should reprime the engine and give it another try. There we are. While I was fumbling about, I noticed that if you go and hide in the little front part of your windshield, it actually gets quieter. That's a cool detail. Speaking of the windshield, we're going to now close the canopy. And we should be ready to begin our flight. So, to remove the parking brake, we just depress the brake lever, and that undoes the lock. And now we're moving. To steer on the ground with the Yak-52, we need to brake as we turn with the pedals in order to activate the wheel brakes and steering. But by doing that, we can taxi, and we'll just get right on up to the runway. Earlier today, I used a chainsaw and an axe to chop apart a little bit of wood. I didn't get that much done, but I don't know, it was fun. I also spent all day cleaning because my toddler cousins were coming over. Before we take off, there are a few tests we could run. So first, we could put the parking brake back on. Next, we will set the RPM to... we do not want to lower flaps for takeoff. Anyways, but we will lower the RPM lever and then throttle up. Now, once we set the RPM to, I think, around 72%, we should be able to lower the throttle a certain extent without it decreasing RPM, and also increase it without increasing RPM. This shows that our throttle and RPM limiter are working properly. That concludes our test, and I think there are a few more things we could do with like the radar and the stall warning, but I'm going to skip those for today. And I think we're good to fly. And close the starter cover. Ooh, there actually was another test. We can set it to one magneto and make sure that nothing fails. Yep, both magnetos look good. Oh, wrong click. Okay. And now we're all set. accidentally went a little too fast. Don't mind me. Okay, and I think this is actually the end of the runway, so I'm gonna have to turn around anyways. I definitely didn't just try to raise the landing gear while I was on the ground. Don't worry about it. Okay, so to take off, we're going to be looking for, I think it's around 70% RPM, like we had it before. And then around like 50% throttle. It's actually like one of the easiest aircraft to take off if those are indeed the parameters, because usually you need a lot more throttle. You know, you're taking off with afterburners in some of these aircraft. And we're up. It's pretty simple. So we're going to be flying a basic circuit around this airfield, which is named... Come on. It's named Makeup. And how this circle is going to work is, I think today we're going to do a counterclockwise rotation of the runway we took off from. So we're just going to climb here, and then we're going to turn left 4 times to have like a box where the runway is one of the sides of this box. So we are currently still, in the climb, and we're only going to enter the very first leg of the approach of the circuit after our second turn. So we're going to do our first turn now. Each of these turns is 90 degrees, and we're going to be, at this point, perpendicular to the runway. So once the wing and the runway line up, we're going to level out and just keep going forward. Also, lower our throttle a little bit so that way we can, maintain a relatively low speed, because this is not any kind of fast aircraft. And to avoid from getting too far, we're going to do our second turn. So, I believe that this is the base wind leg? I don't know. Basewind, downwind, and crosswind legs are the names of the first 3 legs, but I forget the names of all of them. They aren't really important. It's just, basic terminology. But now we are flying parallel to the runway, and we're like checking the runway to make sure that it's clear and that we can land. Now, we do see that we have those L-39s coming up that are about to land, so we're going to try to get in and land before them. So, as this leg comes to a close, we are going to slow down a little bit more. We're going to start bringing down our flaps. There isn't much flap control. And now we are going to lower our gear. We're going to get the undercarriage out so that way we can begin our approach to, that has to be as slow and, secure as possible. We are turning left again, and again perpendicular with the runway. And then, because we have gotten pretty close to the runway, we are going to turn yet again immediately to get parallel and right above the runway. So this was a very close approach, but we are now on final. And yeah, we're just trying to keep it lined up with the center line and descending gently to, have a safe touchdown. And nailed it. At this point, we just let her slow down, start tapping the brakes to, decelerate. And then, very first taxiway we can take and get out of here. Anyways, we got a taxiway coming up right here. So we're just gonna pull off. And that concludes our flight. I really enjoy both aviation and also teaching people about aviation, so we should see a lot of these videos for much more complex aircraft than this one, but it's nice to just have a simple flight sometimes. So that concludes the flight and the video. Like and subscribe. I've got other series that I'm working on and I'm going to introduce in the future, so stay tuned and I'll see you next time.